Welcome to my channel, Sella Buzz. In '95, Clint Eastwood finally speaks up about Robert Redford. Clint Eastwood was born Clinton Eastwood Jr. on May 31, 1930, in San Francisco, California. When he was young, his family had to move around a lot because of money problems during the Great Depression. They were looking for work before they finally settled down in Piedmont, California. Clint was tall and lean with a quiet confidence and rugged good looks. His early life didn't show any signs that he would become a Hollywood star. He worked all kinds of jobs like being a lifeguard, fighting forest fires, and working with steel. Slowly, he started getting interested in performing. His natural presence and charm eventually helped him get small acting jobs in the 1950s. But becoming a star didn't happen quickly or easily. His start in the entertainment world was all about never giving up, being tough, and slowly climbing up the ladder to success. Eastwood's big break came when he got the role of Rowdy Yates in the television Western show called Rawhide from 1959 to 1965. The show let him show off his quiet, strong personality and his commanding screen presence. These qualities would become what he was known for throughout his career. However, his real change into an international star happened when he went to Italy to work with director Sergio Leone in the now legendary Dollars trilogy of spaghetti westerns. These were A Fistful of Dollars in 1964, For a Few Dollars More in 1965, and The Good, the Bad, and The Ugly in 1966. As the man with no name, Eastwood showed a new kind of Western hero. He was mysterious, didn't talk much, morally questionable, yet totally magnetic and interesting. These films not only made him a legend in movie history, but also helped change what Western movies were like for a new generation. The success of those spaghetti westerns carried Eastwood into the 1970s, where he began trying out more different kinds of roles and working with different people. His role as Inspector Dirty Harry Callahan in the crime thriller Dirty Harry in 1971 created another unforgettable character. The character was a tough San Francisco cop with a strong sense of justice and a willingness to break the rules. He became hugely popular in culture and was in several sequels. The phrase, "Do you feel lucky, punk?" became part of popular culture and is still one of the most quoted lines in movie history. Eastwood's portrayal of Harry Callahan really connected with audiences during a time of social problems, giving voice to frustrations while also starting debates about law, justice, and taking the law into your own hands. Even as he was doing great as a leading man, Eastwood showed he wanted to control his career beyond just acting. He started his own production company called Malpazzo Productions, which gave him more control over the movies he made. He soon moved behind the camera, directing and producing many different projects that let him try out different storytelling styles and explore themes of right and wrong, redemption, and human complexity. His work as a director started winning praise from critics with early successes like Play Misty for Me in 1971, showing his skill at making suspenseful stories. Over time, his work behind the camera got as much respect as his work in front of it. Eastwood's career as a director reached amazing heights with films, such as Unforgiven in 1992, which earned him Academy Awards for both Best Director and Best Picture, and is often thought of as one of the greatest westerns ever made. Million Dollar Baby in 2004 did the same thing again, winning him Oscars in the same categories and proving his status as one of the best filmmakers of his generation. Other important movies he directed including Mystic River in 2003, Letters from Iwo Jima in 2006, American Sniper in 2014, and Sully in 2016 showed his ability to handle different types of movies with emotional depth and precision. His directing style, known for being efficient, minimal, and focused on storytelling rather than big special effects, has earned him respect not only in Hollywood, but all around the global film community. Outside of his work career, Clint Eastwood has lived a life marked by both complexity and being his own person. Known for being fiercely independent, he has pursued personal interests in music, politics, and public service. A lover of jazz, he has written and performed music for several of his films. In politics, he served as mayor of Carmel by the Sea, California from 1986 to 1988, showing his commitment to community service and his willingness to step into leadership beyond the entertainment industry. On December 19, 1953, Clint Eastwood married Maggie Johnson, a stunningly beautiful young woman who was working as a model at the time. Their wedding happened before Eastwood had achieved any real fame in Hollywood, making Johnson his partner through the years of struggle and early career building. The marriage would last for more than 3 decades. Going through the turbulence of Eastwood's rising stardom, his growing reputation as a Hollywood leading man, and his increasingly complicated personal life. Together, Eastwood and Johnson had 2 children. Their first child, Kyle Eastwood, was born in 1968 and would go on to have a career as a respected jazz bassist and composer, making his own identity in the music industry, rather than following his father's path into acting. Their second child, Allison Eastwood, arrived in 1972 and later pursued acting and directing, appearing in films and eventually working behind the camera. However, the marriage was often marked by Eastwood's affairs with other women, which were well known in Hollywood circles. After years of strain, Clint and Maggie finally separated, and the divorce became official in 1984. Reports say that as part of the settlement, Maggie Johnson received somewhere between $25 million and $30 million, a huge amount of money that showed both Eastwood's financial success by that time and how long their marriage had lasted. While still married to Johnson, Eastwood became romantically involved with dancer and actress Roxanne Tunis. Their relationship began in 1959 and continued until around 1973, overlapping heavily with his marriage. It was during this relationship that Eastwood fathered his first known child outside of marriage, a daughter named Kimber, born in 1964. Kimber's existence wasn't publicly acknowledged at the time and stayed relatively private for many years, as Eastwood kept a carefully managed public image. Roxanne Tunis was known to have been part of the Hollywood scene as a stuntwoman and dancer, and her long-term connection to Eastwood suggested a relationship that was both personal and professional. The relationship eventually came to an end, but it was one of the most significant early affairs in Eastwood's complicated romantic history. In 1975, Clint Eastwood began a new chapter in his personal life when he moved in with actress Sondra Locke. Their relationship was highly publicized and lasted for nearly 14 years, during which time they appeared together in a bunch of films, including The Outlaw Josie Wales in 1976, Every Which Way But Loose in 1978, Bronco Billy in 1980, and Sudden Impact in 1983. The couple's partnership wasn't just romantic, but also professional, with Locke becoming a recognizable presence in Eastwood's films. To the outside world, their relationship appeared strong, but behind the scenes it was full of problems. Eastwood was reportedly unfaithful during much of their time together, having multiple affairs and fathering at least 3 children with other women. During this period, Locke later spoke publicly about the betrayal she felt, and their eventual breakup in April 1989 was bitter, leading to a series of lawsuits and public disputes. The relationship with Locke marked one of the most dramatic and widely discussed periods of Eastwood's romantic life, showing the tensions between his public image and private behavior. Among the affairs Eastwood had while with Locke was a largely unpublicized relationship with Jocelyn Reeves, a flight attendant. Their romance was kept quiet for years, but it resulted in the birth of 2 children. Their son, Scott Eastwood, was born in 1986 and would go on to follow in his father's footsteps as an actor, appearing in films such as The Longest Ride in 2015 and Pacific Rim, Uprising in 2018. Their daughter, Catherine, was born in 1988 and pursued a career in screenwriting and occasional acting. The relationship with Reeves was done in secret, and Eastwood didn't publicly acknowledge Scott and Catherine as his children until many years later, adding more to the complexity of his family life. Following the end of his long-term relationship with Sondra Locke in 1989, Eastwood entered into another high-profile romance, this time with actress Frances Fisher. Fisher was a respected stage and screen actress known for her fiery presence and her work in films such as Unforgiven in 1992, in which she appeared alongside Eastwood. Their relationship was both professional and personal, lasting several years and producing one daughter, Francesca, born in 1993. Francesca Eastwood grew up in the spotlight and later pursued a career in acting and modeling, becoming a recognizable public figure in her own right. Although Eastwood's romance with Fisher eventually ended, their relationship was thought of as one of the more stable and loving partnerships in his life compared to some of the more troubled ones that had come before. At 95 years old, Clint Eastwood has lived long enough to see entire generations of actors, directors, and cultural icons rise and fall. Throughout his decades-long career, Eastwood has rarely been one to gossip or talk much about other Hollywood figures. His reputation has always been built on quiet dignity, a man who preferred to let his work speak louder than any interview or headline. That is why when he finally decided to speak about fellow screen legend Robert Redford, the moment carried enormous weight. Both men shaped American cinema in ways that few others could match, and though their careers rarely crossed paths directly, their names have long been tied together as symbols of lasting star power. Eastwood, who has often been careful with his words, surprised many when he shared his thoughts. "Robert has always been someone I respected from a distance," he began. "We came up around the same time, and while we weren't often in the same circles, I always admired the way he handled himself. He had a style, a presence that was all his own." This was a rare moment of direct praise from Eastwood, who was not known for giving out compliments freely. The statement showed that even in his own towering career, he stayed aware of the artistry and influence of his peers. The two actors represent different types of American masculinity. Eastwood became the rugged face of the Western, the silent gunslinger whose steely stare could command a scene without a single word. Redford, on the other hand, showed a polished charm, the golden-haired heartthrob who combined charisma with emotional vulnerability. Together, they painted two sides of the same cultural coin, and Eastwood seemed to acknowledge that duality. "He wasn't like me," Eastwood explained. "And that was the point. He did what he did better than anyone, and it worked. You couldn't mistake Redford for anyone else." Fans and critics have often imagined what it would have been like if the two icons had shared the screen. The pairing of Eastwood's tough grit with Redford's effortless charisma might have been electric, yet it never happened. Eastwood talked about this too. "People always ask me why we never made a movie together. The truth is, the timing never lined up. He had his projects, I had mine, and neither of us wanted to compromise what we were doing. But I don't think we needed to make a movie together to recognize what the other stood for. He was doing his thing and I was doing mine. Despite never working together, their careers often ran parallel. Both men eventually moved behind the camera where they proved to be as gifted as directors as they were as actors. Eastwood built a reputation for stripped-down, emotionally raw storytelling, while Redford created Sundance, helping independent voices that changed modern cinema. Eastwood acknowledged this achievement with genuine admiration. What Robert did with Sundance was remarkable. He gave opportunities to filmmakers who might never have had a shot. That's not easy. It takes vision. It takes guts. He created a legacy that will outlive us both. What makes Eastwood's thoughts so powerful is the sense of perspective that only comes with age. At 95, he no longer speaks as a competitor or even as someone from the same time period. Instead, he looks back at the shared journey of two men who defined eras of film and left behind bodies of work that continue to inspire. "I guess when you get to my age, you start thinking about the people who walk the same road," Eastwood said softly. Robert was one of those people. He carried himself with grace, and that's something I always respected. "Hollywood isn't an easy place to survive with your dignity intact." He managed it. The comment was classic Eastwood, measured, understated, yet filled with meaning. It wasn't flashy or overly emotional, but it was heartfelt. In just a few words, he managed to capture the essence of Redford's contribution to cinema while revealing something of himself. For decades, audiences have admired Eastwood for his strength, his silence, and his command of the screen. But in this late chapter of his life, his willingness to speak openly about his peers shows another side, one of reflection, humility, and gratitude. Eastwood's words about Redford serve as both a tribute and a reminder. In the world of Hollywood, where egos often clash and rivalries dominate headlines, two giants of cinema managed to coexist, each carving out his own place in history. "We didn't need to compete," Eastwood concluded. "We both found our way, and I'm glad he was out there doing what he did. The movies are better because of it."